Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable to you, O Lord, my rock and my Redeemer. Many pastors start every sermon with that, and it is from our psalm today. Reading the Psalms is a challenge for me because I'm not really a big poetry person, per se. I've absorbed some great and wise and wonderful poems, and I totally respect the beauty and condensation of thought and artistry that goes into poetry. Poetry and hymns and music, though, I love, and the Psalms are so very musical. In fact, according to biblical scholar Richard J. Clifford, the word Psalms comes from the Greek name, and I'm hoping I'm saying this right, but I'm not sure, psalmoi, which means songs played on a stringed instrument. During the time of their creation, the Psalms were actually sung, accompanied by a stringed instrument, which explains the musicality. The Psalms in their time were not like our pop music of today. The book of Psalms name in Hebrew is Tehillim, which means praises, indicating to us the Psalms are religious in nature, used to praise God and all of God's wonderful creation. Now, Psalm 19 is divided into 3 parts, starting like a love poem expressing the author's admiration of God's wonderful creation. So listen again to this opening, and thank you, Betsy, for reading it. It was beautiful. So here's the opening again. The heavens are telling the glory of God, and the firmament proclaims God's handiwork. Have you ever been out in a field somewhere, lying on your back, looking up at the stars, and seeing all the beauty? The darker the area you're in, the better. If you're way out in the country with little ambient light, it's like a beautiful dome overhead, like it's written about in the Psalm. It's almost as if God captured all the beauty in the heavenly convex of life, and he gathers us all together under it. You know, kids spend so much time indoors these days, by the TV or on the internet or on the computer, and it's really a good idea for us to drag our kids outside. It's really important for them to see the natural wonder of God's world. Camp Sela summer activities are perfect for that purpose. Did you know that, well, let me ask this question. Who here has never been to Camp Sela? Oh, 1 person, 2 persons. Great. Did you know that as a member of GPC, you are part owner in waterside property? And that is worth a lot of, you know what. Camp Sela is only 50 miles away, so it takes less than an hour to get there for camp or a summer vacation. So I hope you'll all check it out this summer if you haven't already. There really is nothing to compare to the beauty of nature. There's no show, there's no entertainment. Nothing comes close to nature's dazzling beauty and quiet power. The psalmist writes in verse 3, "There is no speech, nor are there words. Their voice is not heard, yet their voice goes out through all the earth." There's so much to learn in the quietness of God's celestial dome. If we can just cease our own talking and inner monologue for just a short time to hear the wisdom pouring forth through the heavens. It's in the deep quiet that the voice of God can be heard, and where we can experience God's work firsthand, one-on-one. The psalm writer goes on to sing praises of the sun next, and says how the sky is a tent. The sun resides inside that tent until it comes out in the morning, like a bridegroom, arising on the morning after his honeymoon and moving across the sky through the day, everything affected by its boldness and heat. We know how hot those bridegrooms can be. We have friends whom I totally envy, who can just lie out in the sun and soak in the sun and never get freckles or skin cancer. I'm not one of those lucky people, but the power of the heat of the sun is so astonishingly therapeutic, like a hot sauna, you know? The warmth of the sun actually lulls your mind and gives us pause to meditate on God's immense power. The psalm illuminates that for us in these romantic verses about the sun, and it's very appropriate here for the beginning of spring. So let's all just jump on a plane and go to the Caribbean. What do you think? Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. The second part of the psalm is a little tougher to digest because we go from the beautiful nature to all about God's laws and God's people's obedience to those laws. It may read like a love poem, but Psalm 19 actually belongs in a group of 3 psalms, number 1, number 19, and number 119, which have Torah, law, or instruction as their main subject. It mentions that the law of the Lord is perfect. It says that the law of the Lord is perfect, which is really something to ponder. Is that true? Are all the laws in the Bible perfect? I think that's something we should all think about. There are 613 laws in the Old Testament that you're supposed to follow, and you thought you had it hard with 10. I guess it's not always possible to be obedient to every single of those 613 laws, but they were written in earnest by the people who created and wrote them down. Verses 7 through 10 of today's psalm contains these synonyms for instruction. It says law, decrees, precepts, commandment, fear, and ordinances. Laws, according to this psalm, are serious business, and we're supposed to pay attention to them. Precisely because God has given us such a gorgeous universe. We're supposed to obey the laws because we've been given this gift of this gorgeous universe. Now, a lawless land would be a scary place to live, as would be a land that is over-the-top regulatory. Some would say we are over-regulated now, and indeed, while doing our taxes, I think we can all agree that the tax code is bizarre and way over the top. It seems an overly bureaucratic government has taken over the tax code for common sense. On this, my politically conservative husband and I miraculously agree. But let's get back to the good stuff in Psalm 19, though. Can you imagine life without the beauty of God's sky? There's a new documentary film out, and you can Google it. It's called Under the Dome. It's not that tacky soap opera show, but it's a documentary, Under the Dome, and it's by Chinese journalist Chai Jing. It's drawn comparison to Rachel Carson's book, The Silent Spring, of 1962. I don't know if when you were in college in the 60s, those of us who are of a certain age, but when Rachel Carson's book, The Silent Spring, came out, it prompted an environmental awareness and geoactivism in the U.S., which had not existed before. Thankfully, the U.S. has acted on many of our environmental pollutions since then, though not enough for some of us. And don't even get me started on fracking or strip mining or mountaintop removal for coal or on the subject of massive oil pipelines stretching across our diminishing wilderness. Don't get me started. I'm a tree hugger, and I'm proud of it. Environmental awareness has been increasing in China lately, especially since air pollution levels in Beijing hit record highs in January 2013, a phenomenon dubbed the airpocalypse. According to this documentary, Under the Dome I'm citing, the air pollution in China's big cities is so bad that people often don't see the sky. Makes me crazy. The film details the responses of one little 6-year-old girl who was asked a series of questions. They asked her, "Have you ever seen the stars?" To which the little girl said, "No." 6 years old, never saw the stars. Another was, "Have you ever seen blue sky?" And she responded, once in a while she's seen a little patch of blue. Yet another question was, "Have you ever seen white clouds drifting by?" And her answer was simply no. She had never seen a white cloud. That's where we were headed before 1962. And thankfully, we've learned our lesson, and things are a little bit better. China is slowly coming to terms with its air pollution, which actually keeps people, including children, indoors for almost half the year. They have to keep their kids inside, away from the pollution. But obstacles to cleaning China's skies are daunting. The country is heavily reliant on coal, and car ownership is growing fast. State-owned enterprises, which dominate heavy industry, can at times be more powerful than their regulators. Let's not let that happen again here, ever. We love our beautiful skies, our mountains, our streams, our lakes, our Camp Sela. A world where you cannot see the sky is not a life that God would want us to live, period. The Psalms remind us that we are not the creator, but rather the recipients of creation. And we are obliged to keep our creation in good shape. That's our job. That's the way it was given to us. I had a conversation with Boy Scout Troop 9 leader, John Atlas, the other day. It was a good conversation, and it prompted me to do some research on the Boy Scouts, which I don't know very much about because I'm not a boy. I came upon in the Boy Scouts principles of leave no trace, which are excellent to keep in mind as we honor the laws of creation. These are laws too. Number 1, plan ahead and prepare. Don't go out there trekking or camping without knowing what you're going to do. You don't want to get lost, you don't want to hurt nature, and you don't want to be at a loss if an accident occurs. Number 2, Boy Scout law. Travel and camp on durable surfaces, not on surfaces that erode or are easily destroyed by your presence, like fragile moss or beautiful beach dunes. Don't go there. 3, dispose of waste properly. The Boy Scouts say, pack it in, pack it out. Right? Let's hear it.
Pack it in and pack it out.
That's right.
That's right.
If you bring garbage in, pack up that garbage and bring it out. Don't leave it behind. Number 4, leave what you find. There's no need to take nature with you. Go home and plant a garden, but leave nature there for the next camper or hiker to enjoy. And for God's sake, leave those cute little baby animals there, will ya? 5, minimize campfires. Why not take an eco-friendly stove with you, a gas stove or something, so you don't leave lots of burnt debris behind or cause wildfires. Number 6, respect wildlife. Oh, that goes without saying, that we don't harm any animals in nature. And 7, be considerate of other visitors, which is just another way of saying our commandment to love God and love your neighbor as yourself. Let's hear it for the Boy Scouts. It's a beautiful thing. The laws given to us through the Psalms are made beautiful to read so we can take the medicine of our stewardship of creation with a spoonful of sugar. And it's yet another reason to come and hear God's ideas in worship as a community, because together we can hear what it is we are called to do and called to be as stewards of God's gorgeous, fabulous world. Our wonderful God is so smart and so creative and so giving. given us so much beauty for us. Are we paying attention to that beauty? Are we taking care of our world the best we can? That's something I want you to carry away with you as we go into spring. Are we taking care of our beautiful world? Because that's the law. That's what we're supposed to be doing. So let's close this today with the end of the psalm that many preachers use, again, to start a sermon, because it's beautiful. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Or as preacher blogger Reverend Emily Heath said in her Lenten devotional for 2015, a book that some of us are reading together, which is awesome. Emily says, "Oh God, help me not to mess this up today. Just help me not to mess it up today." And I think that's a pretty darn good meditation for every day, don't you? Amen.